Because we're recording you too and that. Are you going to sit up here? Oh, you're working on it. Hold, please.
Can I talk?
Yeah, he's going to record you in addition to. I think that's a huge part of that. Of this big introduction. Okay, now.
I'm an addict named Barbara. Krysten called me 2 days ago to introduce her, and I said I couldn't do it because I was going to be in Charleston doing some other kind of Narcotics Anonymous stuff. And, you know, my higher power has a way of directing me to do the things that my higher power wants me to do instead of the things that I think I want to do. And so I called Krysten and I said, I'm going to be there tonight. And she said, well, I've asked someone else, but he's okay if I don't do this. And she said, I would love for you to do it. I met Krysten 3 years ago? 3.5 years ago. She came to Morgantown. I was part of the greater Morgantown area at the time. And she showed up for area service, which is a good thing in my book. Service work is always good. And she was willing. She wanted to be literature chairperson, and the way things happened, she did not become literature chair. But you know, we get through that kind of stuff together, and then about 2.5 years later, she asked me to sponsor, and I said, why do you want me to sponsor you? You've got a lady that has 30 years clean, you know, why you want me? I don't think we ever came to an answer for that. But I said yes. And we work steps together, and I call Krysten, and because one of the things that I love about Krysten is she listens. She does not judge, she listens, and she lets people get through their own shit all by themselves, and I really, really appreciate that about her. I'm going to tell a little story, not about Krysten, but it's kind of like about Krysten. I had a fight with my daughter, and Krysten knows all about my relationship with my daughter. And had a fight with my daughter 2 days ago, and it was a pretty bad fight. Krysten knows me. My daughter, my birth daughter, does not know me. It is such an honor to have people in my life today that know who I am and call me on my bullshit, and Krysten says, fuck you, Barbara, every once in a while, which I'm real grateful for, and she calls me bitch. And that's okay, you know, because it's like, Krysten and I have had conversations, many conversations about me not loving myself and her not loving herself, and we tell each other that we love each other. And that's what we do here, and I am so eternally grateful to have a person like Krysten in my life. I got to tell you something else. You know, Krysten works her fucking ass off, not only for Narcotics Anonymous. She has a daughter that lives in or near Cumberland, and every Friday she goes and gets this daughter, and she brings her daughter to Narcotics Anonymous functions. She works way too hard, I believe. But she probably works 60 to 70 hours a week, you know. And I mean, this woman, and she does Narcotics Anonymous regional work and area work and home group work. You know, so when someone tells me that I don't have time, I say, fuck you, bullshit, look at Krysten. And I cuss a lot, you know, and I'm not going to apologize for that. That's just who I am. But it's like, when I got clean, I did that kind of stuff that Krysten was talking about. I had 2 kids, and, you know, I was involved in Narcotics Anonymous, and I had an 8-hour job, and, you know, I did the stuff that we were supposed to do. So if you come to either Krysten and I and say, oh, I don't have time, we might say, fuck you, go away, and I love you guys. And here's Krysten. She also gives amazing hugs.
Well, I'm glad I got the crying out of the way. My name's Krysten, and I'm an addict. I am very grateful to be here. I'm also very grateful that my sponsor got to introduce me. I was kind of nervous that she wasn't going to, but that's not what happened. And anyway, so my clean date is October 15th, 2012. Thanks. So if you are bad at math, it's a little over 5.5 years. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what got me here, but I don't want to really focus on that because there's a lot more that has happened after I got here. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere. My parents did the best that they could, which was not a whole lot, but they were there, and never really felt like I fit in anywhere at all in my whole life until I came to Narcotics Anonymous. This is where I have built my family. I have my moms and my dads here, and my brothers and my sisters, and the fucking weird cousins. It's the connections that I have with the people in Narcotics Anonymous are so much more deep than I have with anyone in my blood family. And so I don't really want to talk about them too much because they're not as important to me. And that sounds so cold. Oh, damn. Fuck it, whatever. So, like I said, growing up, I didn't really feel like I fit in anywhere. And I did things to try and make myself feel like I would fit in, I remember a couple of things specifically, and I spoke about this earlier today actually with some people. I remember being in elementary school, and there was one kid that everyone really liked, and he had a broken leg at one point, and he was in a wheelchair. And people were giving him so much attention, and they thought it was so badass how he broke his leg. And I remember praying to God that I had a broken leg the next day. Please, just someone break my fucking leg, because I want people to like me and think I'm cool. How sick is that, right? And I remember, I actually had my brother throw me down the stairs, and this is out of an attempt of having something broken whenever I went to school, and all I got was a really wicked scar on my arm, and no one thought that was cool. Especially my parents. They didn't think that was very cool. I wanted nothing more than to just feel like I was loved, and I didn't know how to feel that for myself as a kid because I was always just kind of pushed to the side, so I never really got that type of affection where people wanted me around. I had a sibling. I have a sibling. Don't really like to claim him sometimes. But, he didn't even want me around, and I specifically remember, after my parents split up and my mom remarried and I moved away and I was the new kid and I just started my period for the first time 2 days before school started. And, just this whole whirlwind of bullshit. I remember, watching these kids in school, making fun of me and stuff, but then I remember, seeing them in the bathroom swapping pills. And I had no idea what they were doing, but I wanted to do it too because I wanted to be like them, and I wanted them to like me. And I remember seeing these allergy pills at my house, and I didn't know if that was cool or not, so I took them to school anyway, and I was like, yeah, these are really cool, they do really wonderful things. And And for a second, I thought I had made some new friends, and they were like, "Who the fuck is this bitch? Who's this dumbass?" I tried the changing of hairstyles. I tried the changing of my clothes. I tried the different music genres. I tried anything that I could to fit in with any crowd. For those of you that know me, you might find this very surprising, but I actually tried out for cheerleading one year. Oh, yes, laugh it up, honey. And I did not make it. What a surprise. And now, like, my daughter is starting her second year of cheerleading soon. What fucking karma is that? But you know, I wanted to fit in with anyone I could. I ended up being the school mascot instead one year. It was really cute, guys. But still no one wanted to hang out with me, imagine that. You know, here and there I would make some friends, but they didn't really, like, you know, want to hang out with me all that much. I think that they pitied me. I remember I was on my way to my dad's house one weekend, and my stepfather called my mother saying that the police were at the house for me. And someone at my school had found a suicide letter that I'd written. And that started the process of seeking psychiatric help. You know, I was put on some very heavy medications at 13 years old, things that they do not prescribe to people today. You know, I was given some very serious diagnoses. What's the plural of that? Diagnoses. Pardon me. And I believed that was what was wrong with me. You know, like, someone figured it out. This is why people don't love me. This is what is the cause of my imperfection. And I believed that. You know, I believed it because the doctor told it to me. You know, they said that this is what is wrong with you. What I know today is that was 13-year-old Krysten dealing with her emotions the best way that she could. It's much different today. I don't want to die today. I don't have these voices in my head that help me cope with my feelings of abandonment. It's because of Narcotics Anonymous I'm allowed to feel my feelings. I don't have to run away from them. After I had that experience, you know, I had this idea in my head that that's what's wrong with me, and so now, like, I've been defined. And I didn't really know that there was anything different for me at that moment. But eventually, like, the medications that I was put on really affected how I lived my life as a teenager in high school. I was passing out in class. I was not able to really hold conversation with people very well. And so what eventually happened is I took myself off of the medications, and I started to self-medicate because I found some other things. You know, the first time that I ever ingested anything illegal was with my father and my godfather. Got absolutely plastered, and I remember the next morning my stepmother, she made bacon, and then she made eggs in the exact same pan with the bacon grease, and I threw up for days. For days. It was horrendous. But I wanted to do that again, you know, because I really enjoyed the feeling of not giving a damn, you know? Not caring that my father didn't know how to be present for me the way I needed him to, not caring that I didn't have any friends in school because, look, there's these cool adults that want to hang out with me right now, even though I'm doing something very illegal with them. They wanted to hang out with me, and they thought it was funny. After that, I wasn't really allowed to do that very often anymore. But I remember, like, the day I got my driver's license, I also had a vehicle. And my mom and my stepfather had told me that I was allowed to go visit a friend's house, but I wasn't allowed to have anyone in the vehicle with me. Simple rules to follow, right? Hell no. I went and picked up 2 friends, and we went, and I used a certain drug for the very first time that night, and I somehow got home still. Not really sure how that happened, but like the moment that I got the littlest bit of freedom, I instantly took off with it, And if I would have known what addiction was then it would have been very clear to me what I was going through. But it was not clear to me because I was just doing whatever the fuck I wanted. My parents still don't know about that, so I'm not giving them the CD, by the way. It would just cause more pain, and we learned that we don't need to do that anymore. So, after running away from myself and trying to develop new relationships with people with the use of drugs for a couple of years, and also battling with some pretty serious issues with my sexuality and not being accepted with that in my family either, I decided that I was going to try and appease my family, and I was going to try and sleep with a man. I got pregnant that night, and now I have a beautiful 8.5-year-old daughter. I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school, and I was the very first pregnant female to graduate from Allegheny High School in Cumberland, Maryland, class of 2009. I did that. I'm not really sure how I graduated. I think it's only because I was pregnant, and so I wasn't getting high anymore. I think that's the only reason I was able to graduate at that point. But then, like, before I even graduated, I'd already moved out because I wanted that freedom. And at that time, in the state of Maryland, to be able to legally move out of your parents' house without them getting the law involved, you had to be 17 years old and 9 months. On that exact day, I got the hell out. Because I thought I could handle the freedom, And I remember, like, my mother begging me to stay, and she wanted to put me in college to be a nurse because that's what she did, and she has a great fulfillment out of her career. And she wanted me to do that so bad, and she wanted to help me raise my daughter, and I was so resistant to her help that it tore our relationship that was very fragile to begin with apart. I ended up moving in with my daughter's father. We got a place together, and very shortly after my daughter was born, he cheated on me one last time, and that was the end of that. I kicked him out, and he started dating my neighbor, and they got married eventually, whatever. And they're divorced now, so. Yeah. But, as soon as he and as soon as he had left, I was working 2 full-time jobs to try and pay the bills by myself. He started taking care of my daughter more and more, our daughter, and I started to see her less and less. And eventually he told me that he wished that I was not her mother. That stung, I thought I was doing all the right things that I needed to do to be a parent, but I wasn't actually being a parent. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. But I wanted to run away. Instead of, say, fuck you, I'm going to do what I need to do to be a parent, I ran away. I started using. And I didn't really seek it out. It just so happened to be there the exact same fucking day, And, like, the first one is always free, And that one was free. And it wasn't free after that. I wasn't free after that. I kept running and running and running. Eventually, there was no hope of me really being a parent to my daughter. You know, I had gone through court trying to get her, and even a judge didn't see me fit. But I would have her every once in a while, you know, and I got busted with a grow house on March 25th, 2012, and I was facing 12 to 40 years in prison. My daughter was there the night that I got busted. It was in the middle of the night. She was asleep in her crib. And she was only 2.5 years old. My own child couldn't keep me from using. I didn't see her for over 2 years after that day. Love you too. I was charged with 4 felonies. 2 of them were conspiracy charges against the great state of West Virginia, and that is how it's worded. And this was the last time that I was arrested so far. And my parents didn't want to bail me out. I ended up getting bailed out by someone that I was selling to, and of course they wanted that money back. And after that, you know, they took my vehicle as evidence, and I got kicked out of the place I was living in very shortly after that. And I was resorted to basically living in the attics of people's houses. My using got a lot worse. I was no longer just this hippy-dippy chick, you know. It got really hard, guys. And I know that you know what that's like. I no longer had anyone to be accountable to. That last little thread of being accountable to my daughter was gone, completely gone. I didn't have bills to pay anymore. All I had to pay was the bill to active addiction. And I had to do anything that I could to keep that bill paid, to stay well. I was using in ways that the people that I was staying in their attic and stuff, like I said, they were not cool with the way that I was using, so I hid it. You know, I only did it whenever I knew that they weren't going to come looking for me, or they weren't going to be around. You know, I started finding all kinds of ways and means to get more, and I was, asking my mom for money. I was asking my dad for money. I was asking anyone that I could for money, and I was giving them all of the great excuses. You know, I just need some gas money so that way I can go to church. For those of you that don't know me, my stepfather is a minister, and I did not go to church, and he knew it. But I tried, and my mom, she would cave in every once in a while. And it was, it's something that she still has an issue with, you know, whenever we talk about my past, you know, she's like, I can't believe that I was believing you and that I was help feeding your addiction. What she doesn't know is I would have done it anyway, you know. She wasn't giving me hundreds of dollars, y'all. She was giving me $10, you know. She doesn't understand, but that's okay. I call my mother to ask her how she's doing. I don't ask her for money anymore. I can tell her I love her and I mean it. Mean it. And because I'm a productive member of society, I can go and visit her without asking for gas money now. so she doesn't think that I'm going to use it somewhere else. I did many things in my active addiction that I never, ever would have thought that I would have done. Horrible, horrible things, And I know that you all know what that's like. I never thought that I would have ended up pregnant while using drugs and not have been able to quit. I kept using, and I used harder to run away from that issue than I'd ever used before. I ended up getting an abortion not too long before I sought treatment. My mother took me to that facility, and my stepfather paid for it. And we still do not talk about it to this day in my family, but it's something that I'm able to be honest about with the people in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I don't know who else I would be honest with it about. This is where I know that people will love me no matter what I have done, because you don't give a shit about that. We don't care about what you've done or how much you've used. So all I want to do about my problem is to be able to deal with those emotions and stay clean through them and not have to run away anymore. I get to do that here. We get to do that here together. I got clean about 2 weeks after that. I was still testing positive for pregnancy whenever I went to treatment. That was really hard to explain to some people that had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. And they're not addicts like we are, so they were very judgmental towards me. I received a shit ton of judgment. But, either way, I still made it through treatment. There is a subcommittee called Hospitals and Institutions, and they brought in a meeting into that facility once a week. So I had seen them 4 times before I had left that facility, and they were from Narcotics Anonymous. Those people planted a message into my brain. They told me that I needed to go to a meeting the day I got out. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I knew I needed to do it. They told me that I needed to get a sponsor. I didn't know what a sponsor was, but I knew I needed to get one. And they told me that I needed to start working steps and to change who I am as a human being and live a new way of life. And that I can do that. I don't have to use no matter what. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that felt like. The day I got out, I went to a recovery house in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I did not make it to a meeting that day, so I was shitting myself, oh God, I'm gonna use. That's it, that's the end. I didn't make it to a meeting, I got to that facility at 9 o'clock at night. There was no meetings that night, that late. But I thought for sure I was cursed from that point forward, I fucked it up and right off the get, I made it to a meeting the very next day, and it was on my 30 days. I didn't know that that was special. Well, I also didn't realize that that was a marker. I didn't know what that meant to the people in Narcotics Anonymous. And so whenever I was in that meeting, I was already completely taken aback from all of the hugs that I had gotten. Everyone saying, "Welcome home," "We are so happy to see you. Who are you? What's your name? How long are you in town for?" And they were so welcoming to me. And I had never, ever felt that before in my life, in my entire fucking life. The people that I was using with, they were not happy to see me like that unless I had a shit ton of drugs. The people at the treatment facility I went to were not excited to see me. The people, the judge was not excited to see me over and over again. No one was excited to see me. My mother, she was not excited to see me whenever I went into the emergency room and was asking for help because I didn't know what to do with my life. I wanted to die. These people were excited to see me. They had smiles on their faces. They were laughing, joking about all kinds of shit. I had no idea what the hell they were talking about, and they spoke a different language that I didn't understand. You know, like, I knew that this is where I wanted to be because they wanted me there. I got my 30-day key tag that night, and I got a list of phone numbers. They had passed around a meeting list, and they had like 40 women put their phone numbers down. It was overwhelming. And they told me to call them. So the next day, I called every single phone number on that list twice, and not a single person answered the phone. And none of them could call me back because the recovery house I was in had blocked caller ID, and I didn't know the phone number. But, you know, I said, you know what, I'm going to go through it one more time, you know, call these people for a third time. Someone answered the phone. And it was so hard to call these people over and over again because I was like, do they really want me here, or are they just faking me out, you know? Are they just, you know, supposed to do this? Are they supposed to be happy and telling me to call them? And that woman picked me up for a meeting. And so that was my first, like, one-on-one experience with another addict. And apparently she had just got clean like 2 weeks prior to picking me up. And she wanted to make a stop at Walmart. I didn't know what we were going to do there, but she told me she was picking up a prescription. Oh, yeah. And so I went there with her, and I said, I think I'm going to have to just wait in the car for this one. And we ended up going to a meeting, and she was not yet ready to get clean, but now she just celebrated 3 years, and I'm so grateful for that. So grateful. She's a truly beautiful human being, but it was very I don't know how to describe that first encounter. You know, like, that's just a moment that will forever be in my mind and in my heart. This is the first person that went out of their way to do something to help me in my recovery, and they weren't paid to do it. The place that I was staying in, they had a meeting list that was there, and I remember seeing on it that there was something called area service. And I also realized that the address was like right across the street from where I lived in the ghetto of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. If you've ever been there, it's at 21st and Dairy. And I thought that there was going to be like donuts there and stuff, and this was just like a social hour. And I didn't really know what to expect going there, because, like, you know, I'm being kind of brought up in the church a little bit and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is something special. It's some type of special service that we're all going to participate in. It's special, all right. Within 5 minutes of being there, I had a service commitment. My commitment was to the activity subcommittee, and I was to find 5 out-of-town speakers for an event. By that point, I had only been to about 4 meetings. I didn't know how to find people that had clean time. I didn't know anyone from anywhere else, because I was not even from there. And I felt very inadequate and unqualified. But, you know, I started to get to know some of the people at Area Service, and they kept telling me to keep coming back until they could really get me, like, something solid to do there. You know, they said, we can always use your help, but please just keep coming back, because we'll keep finding shit for you to do. And I had willingness. I knew no one there. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I didn't have a job. You know, I had nothing to do except for to go to meetings. So in that area, there was like 5, 6 meetings to choose from every single day. I could make it to all of them if I really wanted to. I was very, very fortunate, you know, at that time. A lot of them were within walking distance. And so I hit recovery hard, you know, and I had to ask people, how do I apply for jobs? How do I do that? How do I go to a food bank? Because I have nothing to eat. And the people that I was living with were gracious enough to feed me for the first couple days. I didn't have any clothes except for 3 outfits that were torn to shreds and were dirty as hell. I had dreadlocks. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get a job with those. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get a job with facial piercings, with tattoos. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get a job with having the past 2 years as a drug dealer on my resume. You know? Like, I felt like I had no hope. You know? I'm completely unemployable. These people took me around to pick up applications at places. They showed me how to get a library card so that way I could get on their computer and apply online. I didn't even have a computer, you know, in my life for years. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I have a career in tech support today. But anyway, I ended up getting a job. Someone gave me a chance, you know, and they threw me into a warehouse doing all kinds of bullshit. And eventually this company hired me on because they really liked me. And they knew that I was facing all of this prison time that I was facing, but they gave me a chance anyway. You know, they said, well, we'll take you as long as we can, you know. They ended up writing me letters of recommendation to take to court. Like, about 10 of my coworkers and bosses did that for me. They also provided me with an opportunity to move here to West Virginia to transfer within the company to where I can be closer to my daughter. At that point, I was 3.5 hours away one way to visit her. And now I am just over an hour one way, and I make that drive twice every weekend, unless I'm here, and sometimes she even comes here with me for regional service. And the things that I felt like I had to give up to get here to West Virginia for this opportunity was enormous. Here I am, giving up the people that I have known for the past 2 years of me being in recovery. And I'm giving up a relationship with someone that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I was giving up everything that I had known, you know, all of my connections in recovery, everything. And something happened. I prayed, and I prayed a lot. And after I got offered the job, it was kind of like a no-brainer. You know, it wasn't about me anymore. This was about someone else. Someone that doesn't call me Krysten anymore. She calls me Mommy. I was terrified. Absolutely terrified, because I didn't know if she would even want me around, you know? I didn't know if she would want me in her life as her mommy. And I didn't know how I was going to make it on my own. I was afraid because I didn't know if I was going to be able to afford to live on my own in Morgantown. I didn't know if anyone was going to want to be my friend. I have so many friends in front of me. I didn't know how my relationship with my sponsor at the time was going to work out. I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay clean. I knew that if I came to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, that I was going to be okay. And so whenever I looked into moving to Morgantown, before I even looked at apartments, I started looking at meeting lists for the area. And I had seen where there was a meeting almost every single day in Morgantown. And they were like realistic hours with my work that I could make it, you know? And I was like, that's it, I'm sold. That's the determining factor right there, you know? Fuck all this bullshit that I'm leaving behind. Like, I can build a new life in Narcotics Anonymous where I'm going. And, you know, I had these insecurities of, are these people going to love me like the people in Pennsylvania love me? Are they going to listen to me? Are they going to expect something from me? And I remember my very first meeting here in West Virginia. There was a very kind young woman named Alicia, and she came up to me in the Old Bugaboos home group and she asked me if it was my first meeting, and she asked me if I needed phone numbers, if I needed a meeting list, and she gave me such a strong hug, and she welcomed me like I was brand fucking new, you know? And I felt like I was brand new. And at first I was thinking, this bitch, she doesn't know I got 2 years, because that's some shit, right? I shared that night about how I was struggling with step 6. And I saw the look in her face, and it was a candlelight meeting, you know? And she was the whole way across the room. I will always remember that very first meeting. They don't meet at that same church anymore. They meet somewhere else now. But that changed everything for me, you know, moving here to West Virginia. I had waited a week before I went to that meeting. Thank you very much. And I was nervous to even go in, you know. What impression am I going to give to all of these new people in my life that are going to have to see me for the next godforsaken amount of time? You know, are they going to think I'm a dick? Or are they going to, like, think I'm cool? Are they going to think I'm weird? Yeah, weird is a good one. And they loved me. They still love me. I know that because they're right here, you know? That's what's incredible about this program, is that, like, I can go anywhere and I'm at home, you know? I can go to any Narcotics Anonymous meeting in the state of West Virginia and I'm at home. I can go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings in Connecticut, in Vermont, in Massachusetts, in Texas, Louisiana, everywhere, and I'm at home. You know, I still get that hug and that smile whenever I go into that meeting. I don't even get that from my brother or my dad. It's so powerful, you know? Anyway, I want to talk about my very first sponsor. I didn't know what a sponsor was, so I thought that this was someone that was going to help me buy cigarettes and pay rent. Because, you know, like, NASCAR drivers have sponsorships and shit, and like, oh, maybe they're going to help me financially. I think the most that she did was buy me a coffee. She also bought me the Step Working Guide and a notebook for Christmas, my very first Christmas clean. And she said, "Merry Christmas, get to work, bitch." And that's who I spent my first holidays with clean. My family did not want me around. I didn't spend a holiday with my family until I had over 2 years clean. And I remember, like, resenting people that had their families back in their lives, like, right as soon as they got out of treatment, or their parents came to visit them in treatment and stuff. Y'all bitches got it good. My parents didn't want to talk to me. No one in my family wanted to talk to me. And I felt entirely alone. And this woman, she took me into her family, and I spent Christmas with them. Thanksgiving, I ended up spending with people in Narcotics Anonymous as well. We made a turkey at one of the churches, and we had marathon meetings, which went the whole way through the night. So that way we didn't have to be alone, you know? We could be with our family. And I had never experienced anything like that in my life. You know, like I never had friends inviting me over to spend holidays with their family. Like, that never happened. I was always getting high with other people that didn't want to see their family, you know? My first sponsor, I didn't know her. I didn't know anything about her except for that she had a black key tag. And what I had come to find out was that she was living dirty. Dirty. She ended up doing a hit and run in front of my recovery house with me in the trunk of her car. What the fuck? I thought this was normal. Directly in front of the house I was living in. And I had to deal with that neighbor like the very next day, you know? But in the process of going to area service, I started to get to know some people that were extremely serious about their recovery and carrying the message to the sick and suffering addict. And there's this one woman that like no one really wanted to talk to, but she was kind of like this point of authority if anyone needed a reference on policy. And they were just kind of like afraid of her, you know? And I remember some people, like I would go to sit next to her because I didn't know that people were afraid of her and that I should be afraid of her. And I remember someone pulled me aside one time and they were like, "Are you friends with her?" I said, I think I only know her name. And they said, "Well, she's very hardcore, you know, she's like an NA Nazi or something like that." And for some reason that really attracted me to her, because I knew here's this fierce, badass bitch, you know, and I need to get with her. I started talking to her more. I started to get to know her, and I asked her to be my sponsor one day. As soon as the cool crowd found out, they excommunicated me. They said, "We can't have you talking about recovery in our conversations." And I started working steps with this woman, and she started teaching me about service work and what it meant to do service from your heart and how important it was to be of service and how important it is to develop connections with the people within the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And she also taught me how to express my feelings, which was very difficult for me. You know, she taught me how to be a woman instead of a girl, and also how to still talk to that little Krysten inside of me. And she really changed my life, you know? There were so many days that, like, I didn't like who I was. And I knew that that was that one person that I could call, and I wouldn't have to feel like I had to run away anymore, you know? She started teaching me about the history of Narcotics Anonymous. In fact, we went to the History of Narcotics Anonymous convention in Connecticut, and she started teaching me about the literature. And she really pressed that on me. She started teaching me about the traditions of Narcotics Anonymous, and she just showed me how to walk differently, you know? how to have a completely different posture in my life. Whenever I moved to West Virginia, I was terrified of losing that relationship with her. And I manifested that. I moved here while I was in the middle of my 6th step. I was completely uncomfortable with who I was. I had just ended a relationship, and I was not ready to really look at myself. I started acting out horribly. I didn't allow myself to feel like I was a part of the area that I was in entirely. You know, like everyone would go out and have fun after meetings, and I would, you know, like sometimes tag along, but I didn't want to like intrude unless they invited me. And what I didn't realize is that like I had to invite myself, because y'all weren't going to think about me 24/7, because it's not about me. And I still have to remember that, you know, like I am not going to get invited to every single fucking fun thing that you do. I need to invite myself. And I need to invite you to come do fun things with me, because that's how this works, you know? You, like, I think about me all the time, but that doesn't mean that you do. And I didn't really allow myself to feel like I was like really a part of the group for a long time. And I remember there was this woman that I had met in a home group that I had joined. And I started calling her pretty regularly, and I remember feeling so uncomfortable with myself sometimes that I didn't want to be honest about it, you know? And then there were times where like I was able to be honest. And I was going through this battle of surrendering and then like 2 minutes later downloading Tinder again. Yeah. And if you don't know what that is, it's a horrible dating app. Don't do it. It's like a video game. It's stupid. And I remember like calling this woman and crying because I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. Like I didn't want to try and find self-acceptance from other people, because that shit does not work. You can't do that. And how long was I calling you, talking to you about that? God, it was like a fucking year, you know? Like, surrender, and then here's my will again. Yeah, over and over and over again. And, you know, I wasn't calling my sponsor and keeping her in the loop as to what was going on with me. I would call her about once a month, and I would say, everything's fine. I'm okay. I eventually got to the point where I was really ready to surrender. I asked Barbara to be my sponsor because she's another one of those fierce, badass bitches in recovery. Badass bitch. That's right. And she's one of those people that, like, some people can be intimidated by and can be afraid of, because she is real. And I am so grateful to have people like that in my life that are not afraid to be honest. That's what I need, is I need people to be honest with me. It helps me to be honest with myself, and for me to be honest with other people if I surround myself with honest people. My relationship with my sponsor has had its ups and downs. There's been times where I haven't called her because I wanted to sit in my own shit, because sometimes shit piles are pretty comfy. And, you know, there's also been times where I call her crying because either I'm so pissed off as to who I am, or because I'm so fucking grateful to be alive. And she was a part of my home group. You know, this was someone that I got to see pretty regularly, and she's got to see me and how I live my life today. and she gives me a new perspective on myself on the regular basis. There are times whenever I call her and she doesn't want me to say struggling because it's not good to say. So I am dealing with insecurities, not feeling good enough, not feeling like I belong, not feeling like I'm strong, not feeling good at all. And I can call her and she gives me so many suggestions, like, look at yourself in the mirror and wink at yourself. Y'all ever try and do that? I feel like I'm flirting with myself real good, you know? She's also suggested to me that I buy matching underwear and bras. Something special about that. But she's made so large of an impact in my life that I feel completely different about myself today as a woman and as little Krysten inside, you know? She gives me suggestions about taking time to talk to little Krysten, to that little girl that I beat up every fucking day because she's not good enough, because no one likes her. I can be my own worst bully, you know? All those horrible things that people had said to me while I was growing up, I say that to myself. I say that to that little girl inside of me. And I know that some of you say it to that little boy or girl inside of you. And it's not fucking fair. It's not fucking fair to that little kid. I could not look at my daughter and say that you're ugly. No one likes you. You're not good enough. You're not cool. You're not fun. I don't love you. I could never say that. Why is it okay for me to say that to myself? It's not okay. And this woman and many other women in my life teach me that. They teach me how to treat myself good, how to be nice to myself, how to practice self-love, how to get that self-acceptance from within myself. Just a couple weeks ago, I had the desire to use, and I hadn't had that in a long time, because that is a great gift that we get here in Narcotics Anonymous whenever we stick around for a while. You know, we lose that desire to use. I wanted to run away so fucking bad that I was willing to get high. I had that thought. And what I did is I called people, I talked to people, and I didn't get high. I did the things that I was told to do from the very fucking beginning. Pick up the phone, you call people before you get high, not after. You can still do it afterwards too, please do. But you do it before. You go to a meeting. Talk to your sponsor. Start reading some literature, you know? I've been doing those things again because I let the excuses that Barbara had mentioned get to me. You know, I'm too busy. They don't want to see me there anyway. You know, I compete in a sport that takes a shit ton of training to be competitive in. And like I'm talking like I train 4 days a week, 2 to 3 hours at a time. And that's after working a 10 to 12 hour shift at work. And conveniently, that time for me to train is always whenever there's a meeting going on. Yeah, that's real cute. And I would justify it by saying to myself that I didn't get clean to not have fun. So what I've decided is that I don't need to be competitive in this sport for me to still have fun. I can train whenever I can. but I'm still going to make it to meetings. I'm still going to call my sponsor. I'm still going to hang out with people in the fellowship. I am fellowshipping again, y'all, and it is good. Eating some shit food, drinking shit coffee, and, shit talking. Hell yeah. And it feels really great to be connected again, because I felt disconnected. I disconnected myself. And the disease, like we say, it just kind of happens. It's cunning, baffling, and powerful is what it says in our literature, and that's what was happening to me. I worked over 60 hours one week. This happens all the time, but I worked over 60 hours this one particular week. It was a horrible fucking week, and everything was going against my way. I didn't make it to a single meeting that week. I didn't call a single person that week, and I came here to regional service because I have a commitment to our region. I didn't have my reports ready. I wasn't even able to complete those reports because I was locked out of the website to do so. For hours, these people waited on me to be able to do my job, to do my duty. I said duty. And no one once bitched at me for it, or got angry with me, excommunicated me, told me I wasn't good enough, They hugged me. They fucking hugged me. And they understood what it was like to have a shit week. I've had so many incredible, wonderful days in recovery, but I've had some shit weeks. And I didn't do any of the right things that week. By the time I got home, I didn't really want to use anymore, but the whole way here, I had this desire. And I wasn't calling my sponsor at that moment. I'm so fucking grateful I didn't get high. So grateful. I'm grateful to be of service to Narcotics Anonymous. If you have not been of service yet, please get to it, because we need you. There's one member that I heard share one time, if you don't do service, then fuck you. And I'm not going to go that far, but I did just say it for him. Being of service has completely changed my life. It has given me so much freedom to be able to take a meeting into an institution of some kind, and to be able to share a message of hope of Narcotics Anonymous with other people. There's nothing else that compares to that. There really isn't. It's incredible. There are so many times that I don't feel like doing it because there's something I would much rather be doing that night, and I don't get paid to go in there, like they think that we do. And I'm not there to tell on them for saying shit, But whenever I leave those meetings, I feel whole. It's like I completed my purpose for the day. Our purpose. And there's some service positions that I've had where I've had my doubt as to if I was actually doing something, as to if it was important, But then anytime that I have that doubt and I say it out loud, someone always has some type of reason as to why my position is important, and they don't want to do it. I have stayed clean through sentencing, I went to my sentencing at 11 months clean, absolutely terrified that I was about to spend the majority of the rest of my life in prison. I waited until after my sentencing to try and get back into my daughter's life, and because I didn't want to get into her life and then leave again. That's my story. It doesn't have to be yours. You make your own decisions. But I remember how painful it was to see her and how wonderful it felt at the same time for that first time again. She was over 4 years old. And she said, "Hi, Krysten. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you're not sick anymore." Now, whenever I get pulled over for speeding, she thinks I'm going to prison right away. She got me out of a speeding ticket one time, y'all. She was crying so hard. It's fucked up. But over the past couple of years that I have been able to develop a relationship with her, she doesn't really even know how to spell my name. She doesn't even understand that people call me Krysten sometimes. She wants to cuddle with me at night, and she's not afraid of me. She's not afraid that I am going to drink something that will make me sick, or take a pill that will make me sick, and leave her life for a long time again. She comes to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and it's not just my home group, it's our home group. And she hugs people whenever they celebrate clean time, because we all celebrate that. She comes to functions with me in Narcotics Anonymous. She does all of these things with me. And even if she hated it, I'd still be coming, y'all. This is what keeps me alive. This is the only reason I'm not using today. It's the only reason I'm not in prison today. It's the only reason that I'm still alive today, is the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. I have a home group. If you don't have one, you should get one. We don't have to be homeless in Narcotics Anonymous. And you should also probably be of service to that home group. I'm saying shoulds, whatever. I am of service to my home group. I'm of service to my area. I'm of service to our region. I am of service to my friends and to myself. And I'm very grateful to be able to share with you tonight some of me. It's not very often that I get to do that, or that anyone will even listen to me. But I've seen some of you cry with me tonight, and I can't tell you just how wonderful that feels to know that you can empathize with me, and that you can laugh with me and understand me and love me. I love each and every one of you so very much. You don't have to get high today. No matter what. No matter what. Together we can do anything. Anything. I've seen people stay clean through so much. So many of my reservations that I no longer have them, you know? And I am forever grateful to the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous for giving me a new life. I'm Krysten and I'm an addict. That's all I got.